Welcome to the Virginia is for Sports podcast with your hosts, Kevin Flippin as Flip, Paul Gilman as PG Fitty P, and Kenny Wingle as K-Dub. Let's play VA.
To Virginia's for Sports podcast. Sonia, you and I don't think we knew each other until September of last year when you were inducted into the Patrick Henry High School Sports Hall of Fame. And it was amazing to watch people in the room as they were reading your bio. And then when you were talking during the actual ceremony about some of the things you've experienced and accomplished, and we won't name the person, but they were thinking that you would kind of add in maybe an older female. We'll let her in. And by the end of the night, everybody was calling you the GOAT of the class and of Henry athletics, period. Do we want to say the name of the person? No,
you're very kind.
All right. So, Sonia, you are primarily known in the sports world as a track person. You made the U.S. national team. You have the record in the 400 at UVA. You actually had the record for the 100, 200, 400 for decades, right? And I think the 100, 200 were broken in the last handful of years.
Yes.
But you didn't play sports, organized sports anyway, until you were how old?
Until I got to middle school. So I was in the 7th grade.
7th grade, but you did play in your neighborhood. And what percentage of girls were in the neighborhood playing sports?
Maybe 20%, maybe. I only remember like 2 of us, and the rest were boys.
and how
we kind of.
No, go ahead. Sorry, Sonia.
I said, so we got beat up on by the boys a lot. It kind of toughened us up, What do you call it? Diamonds are made by the struggle they go through or something. I don't know. But yeah, the boys beat us up a lot. And even now the guys in the neighborhood will say, Sonia, you should be giving us credit for your greatness because we are the ones who made you.
Well, did they make you when you were beating them in sprints in the neighborhood?
They did not. But they probably helped me because they would get mad. And we played every sport. We played football. I was a running back. I scored all the touchdowns. Whenever I scored a touchdown and I'm walking back to my end of the field, I get a football upside my head from them because they're mad because I scored. So yeah, in that sense, yeah, they did kind of make me, because then that would just make me want to score more.
At some point, they just got used to you scoring, I imagine.
They did. They started like, we want Sonia on our team. We got Sonia.
And so you weren't getting any encouragement for sports from home, were you?
No. My mother knew nothing about sports. Nothing. She worked all the time, and it was, I went to Gandy and I dominated field day. So when I got to Liberty, Coach Long had heard about me and told me I needed to run track. Miss Lister, whatever. I don't even remember I think Coach McDonald was the gymnastics person at that time. But I also started doing gymnastics at Gandy with Mr. Goldsmith, and that had gotten over to the coaches at Liberty. So when I got there, they were like, you need to run track. You need to do gymnastics. And because I was used to doing whatever I was told, I said, okay. And so it began.
How many games did your mom come to?
I don't remember my mom coming to any games.
And how many games of your neighbors' kids have you been to?
Oh my gosh. I go to all my people, my church people, my friends' kids. I go to everybody's games. I support everybody. It's so funny because I read in the newspaper one time, it was this kid at Prince George, his coach was picking him up and he didn't have anybody to come to his games. And I called up my cousin. I'm like, look, we're going to go to the regional track meet so we can cheer for this kid. We just do that. I support kids. Even when we went last year, I went to the state meet and I didn't have anybody there, but whoever we were sitting beside, we were rooting for their kids. Like, what's your child's name? Okay. We are cheering for their kids.
How much of that is just your big heart and how much of that is your experience with your mom?
I think it's a little of both. I do have a big heart, and I'm thinking I would probably do that anyway. But I don't want kids to be out there with nobody cheering them on. I don't. Tonight I went to a little girl at church's softball game just for an hour, and I've been doing that forever. I can remember Earl's parents being at my track meets, and I can remember my best friend's mother. She would come to my track meets. Well, her daughter, I made all my friends run track. So her mom came as well, and she'd be cheering me on. But that was really it until I got, all my little friends and kind of fan base, they all came. But my mom never, I don't think she saw me run in high school or in college.
That's wild, right? Or
that's wild. In fact, I think I told you the story about we had the Dogwood relays in Charlottesville and school was out. And I was coming home after the relays and my mom was coming to pick me up. And she got there before I was finished. So she had been waiting. And so she was a little frustrated because she was in the car waiting. I literally ran the 4x4 and she's like, get in the car. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I need to warm down. I can't ride to Richmond if I don't warm down. My legs were dead because I had probably done 4 or 5 events. And she's like, no, I've been waiting for an hour. Come on, let's go. And I just remember getting in that car and like trying to stretch in the back seat because my legs were tight.
So, Sonia, you've learned a lot in your life. What's the best advice you could give to the 12 or 13-year-old version of yourself as it relates to sports or athletics?
The 12 or 13. Well, one thing I feel helped me was I was just having fun. I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't have, a parent saying, you better win. I didn't have any pressure. I just was I didn't know how good I was. So I was just out there just relaxed and having fun. And so the victories came. I don't ever remember feeling pressure till I got to the state meet, as I was running. And I think if you can be relaxed and have fun with it, I think you'll have a lot more success. Kids and parents, probably more so than the kids, are so uptight about, well, they have to win, and they put that pressure on the kids. And I just don't think that you can get the best out of yourself when you're 12 years old and you're worried about your parents being mad at you because you didn't win.
Yeah.
So that was the other side of my mom not coming. There was no pressure because when I got to college, I will tell you, the girls that came in there whose parents were their coaches or their dads were their coaches, they were the most high-strung, anxiety-ridden people you had ever met in your entire life. And, I didn't have that. My mom didn't know what I was doing. She loved it when I called her and said, hey, I won. But she didn't even understand like how good I was. She just had no frame of reference like that I'm supposed to be out there watching her. She didn't know.
So last question for me for a while, then we're going to go to K-Dub. So you were dominant in terms of school records at UVA in the 100, 200, 400. And I had a chance to meet LaShawn Merritt, who won a couple gold medals in the 400. And I said, hey, did you ever compete against Usain Bolt in the 400? Because I knew Usain had tried it a couple times. And he said he had no chance against me. So the fact that somebody is that dominant in all 3 events is pretty unusual. How do you explain that?
Well, I started out in the 1 and the 2. So I moved up to the 4. So I knew I was fast, and it was just, I feel like, I just had to get stronger and stronger and stronger to run the 4. And I didn't really run the 4 a lot in high school. I didn't run the 4 until I got to college. Well, I ran it in the state meet in high school, but I didn't really run it. And so I wasn't one of those kids who were like, oh my God, it's a whole lap, I'm going to die. I did whatever the coach told me to do. And I wanted to win. I didn't know how to run the 4. When I first ran it, I went out as hard as I could. I died, but I won. And so I knew that I could win. I just had to get stronger and stronger. And in high school, you don't really train. You kind of run yourself into shape. And I knew if I ever trained for that race, I would be good. I finished third in the state, and I literally only ran at state that year.
That's wild. I'd still be running if I was running in that event with you. All right, K-Dub, what do you got?
Hey, so what was it like? I mean, you ended up at UVA, but I'm curious about the difference in recruiting from one sport to the next. What was your recruiting experience like?
I wasn't recruited in gymnastics. I was recruited in track, and I had a lot of HBCUs recruited me. Tennessee recruited me. I initially wanted to go to UNC. I don't even know why. I don't know if I picked it out of the air, but I really wanted to go to UNC. And so my coach called them and they were like, yeah, no, she's not a blue chip athlete. And Virginia came on the scene and I liked the idea. I knew I didn't want to go far away from home. So I liked the idea of Virginia. And so when I went on my recruiting trip, they pulled out Ralph Sampson and, they showed me this beautiful campus and all these wonderful things. It was the best school in Virginia, blah, blah, blah. And my mom loved it. And I loved Coach Craddock, who was the coach at the time. And so, it was only an hour away. So that's where I chose. I went to Tennessee and I loved Tennessee, but it was too far for me. I was like, I had never been away from home when I got recruited for college. I'd never been away from home. And I was like, I don't know, 6 hours. That's a long way. I want to be able to come home. And my mom, I didn't think my mom would be trucking back and forth to Knoxville to get me. I kind of, in my head, I knew that. So I was like, I better go to UVA. That way I can jump on the bus. I can carpool. And it worked out well. And I got to race against UNC. And that coach, who didn't think I was blue chip, and I got to go and race against them and dominate the ACC. So that was some sweet revenge right there.
Well, that's a great lead into my next question, because I'm always, regardless of the athlete, if it's a basketball player, best dunk, right? That there's something that stands out to you. It's your best win. Like, tell me that story of the one, but whether it's a revenge or, you know what, I've been trying to beat this person for a long time and I finally got there. What would you say is your favorite or your best wins?
In high school, Cynthia Fife at the time, I think it was AK, Armstrong Kennedy, they were together at the time. And it was this young lady, Cynthia Fife. They called her Pinky. Her and I battled in the 100 and 200 all year. And she kept beating me in the 100, I would beat her in the 200. But in the district and regional, she beat me in the 100. We get to state after I had a total heartbreak in the long jump. We get to state. And for the first time that year, I think I beat I call her Pinky, but I beat Cynthia Fife in the 100 that year. She had dropped out of the 200 for the state meet because she was going to focus on the 100 and be state champion in the 100. And that was the race that I beat her in. That's the race that stands out.
Nice. That's beautiful. Flip, what you got?
So, Flip's turn. I've got a question that I've asked a couple people before, but I can't wait to hear your response. So you set a lot of records, right? You set a lot of records wherever you were. You dominated field day. Let's be honest. You dominated field day, and then you just keep going, right? So you set records in high school. You set records in college. How do you feel when someone breaks your record?
Well, now I feel great. It's been 30 plus years. And so now, at first I was, in the first few years, you're like, I want my record to last forever. But now, I see the kids out there and they're working so hard. Honestly, there was a young lady at UVA probably 5 years ago, Jordan Lavender, and she came so close to my 400 meter record. And her and I became Twitter buddies. And I was really rooting for her. She never got it, but she just was like, oh my God, I'm trying so hard. And I'm like, I know, I'm rooting for you, really. Wink, wink. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I really was rooting for her. And even the young lady, I talked to the young lady who broke the 200 record because she just broke it last year or the year before last, I think. And I had seen her at a meet. I had been going up to UVA to their meets. And her and I talked about it. And, she's like, I'm really close. And I'm like, I know. She's like, I'm sorry, but I'm going after your record. And I'm like, hey, go for it. I have, it's been 30 plus years. I think, I feel like I did all I can with that record, right? And so she finally got it, and I called her, and I was like, congratulations, way to go. And so, I mean, I'm fine with it now. I probably, if you had asked me right after I said it or whatever, I'd have said, no, I just want to hold it a little longer. But I think that 30, 35 years is a good amount of time.
No, that's awesome. It's an awesome answer, and it goes right along with how you were talking earlier about supporting other athletes, supporting other kids. That's totally cool. All right. So my next question, you are extremely fast. You've been fast your whole life. Does being fast translate or resonate in the rest other parts of your life? I mean, do you find yourself driving fast? Do you find yourself doing other things fast? Are you always early?
When I was younger, yes, I drove fast. DMV did not, we weren't friends. I did drive fast, but I will say this. I mean, I walk really fast. If you talk to my children, they're going to say, oh my God, she power walks. I was walking with Earl one day and he was like, why are we walking so fast? I mean, are we in a race? I have always walked fast. Yeah. And I don't know if that has anything to do with track or not, but I've always walked fast. I used to drive fast. Now, after being older and wiser and understanding that these tickets cost money and plus I like being in the land of the living, I don't drive fast anymore. But the important thing to me about that really translates into the real world is the competitiveness. I am competitive in everything I do. And I naturally ended up in sales. And obviously in sales is a competitive career. And I just thought it's just fitting with, the same, all of the stuff I did to train and get ready for a track meet, I could put to use in my job with sales. The preparation, the, staying at it, not giving up, all of that translated so well into sales.
I love it. That's awesome.
Cool. K-Dub, I think you had another question.
Yeah, so Sonia, I think I'm picking up on this. I feel like you're a super fan, one. So you go to all events, and so feel free toward some of those events and send them to us, and we'll give shout outs and give people their due. I also feel like the other part of that is you're hanging out at states and watching all of that. I know sincerely you're rooting for them. And there's a small piece of you that's walking out of there going, they still can't beat me, right? They still can't beat your record.
In the 400, yeah. I am. I mean, it's so funny because wherever I go, like if I go to a college, like when my daughter was doing travel, we traveled around and we went to different, I would always look at the track records and say, I would have the record here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
when's the last time you went back to Gandy or?
Oh my goodness. Gandy, I go by Gandy all the time. I have people in Ashland and they go over to Gandy. Like my son used to go over there and shoot ball with some of the other neighborhood kids. I go to Liberty because I follow, I go to church in Hanover. So all the kids go to Liberty or Patrick Henry. So I went to all of Liberty's gymnastics meets. I go to their track meets. And the same with Patrick Henry.
So, Kevin. Yeah. Hey, go ahead. Sorry,
Kevin.
Well, I just had one more question. I just thought of who was your favorite athlete or the athlete that you looked up to when you were coming along or when you were growing up?
I didn't have one.
Wow.
Because I didn't do any organized sports. I wasn't in the sports world at all as a kid. It wasn't even when I started running track it wasn't until I got to high school that I started hearing names. And, you know, I went to Junior Olympics one year, I think after my sophomore year, and I met a lot of people that were really good, but I still didn't know like the big names until I got to college. So I didn't have any, I didn't know, I didn't follow track.
So, Sonia, you are a member of the Kenny family by marriage. Does the entire Kenny family recognize you as the greatest athlete?
They do. I don't know about Aaron, but yeah, I think they do. I think they do.
Well,
I tease my husband all the time. I'm like, you know, I'm the only individual state champion because he was coaching when Patrick Henry won the state football championship. So he claims that as his state championship. But I'm like, I mean, okay, I guess.
I did it on my own.
Yeah, Aaron, I guess, has an argument since he played in the NFL for a few seasons.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I imagine he gets to the same conclusion that that guy at the Hall of Fame ceremony came to. Oh, man. All right, so we do this little thing called Mount Rushmore from time to time, basically your top four. And here's the question. The top four athletes that you've ever watched, competed against, with connections to the state of Virginia.
With connections to, oh my God, what's the little girl what's the girl from Godwin? What's her name?
Track?
Yes, she ran the intermediate hurdles. What's her name? She went to Arkansas.
We'll get our crack research staff to look it up.
I can't think of her name. She intermediate hurdles. She ran at Godwin. She made the U.S. team last year. She won nationals, and I can't think of her name. Britton was her last name. Britton Wilson. That's my number one. Britton Wilson.
You don't have to rank these 1 through 4. They just
okay. So Britton Wilson, LaShawn Merritt. What is the girl that went to Hampton? She ran the 400. What was her name? She's probably.
Hey, Sonia, are you going to be out? Are you going to be out at LaShawn's thing that he's doing this weekend? I think it's at Hermitage. Did you see that?
I think that was last. He was there last weekend.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was the 19th. Sorry about that.
Yeah, he was there Saturday. 19th. Yeah. Anyway,
while you're thinking of the third and fourth ones, LaShawn is
Allen Iverson.
Oh, you're going AI.
There you go.
I love Iverson.
Do you know him personally?
I don't, but I got to watch him play when he was in high school.
At Bethel, right?
Yep.
Yep.
They played Patrick Henry in the mud at Virginia Union. I don't remember what year.
Was that Bethel or was that Hampton?
I thought that was Bethel. I don't know. Maybe it was Hampton. I just remember a muddy game.
It was Ronald Curry. I was at that game too.
Oh yeah, Ronald Curry.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's one of my favorites.
Another good one.
I don't know if he's one of my favorites actually.
I
love Michael Cherry. I love Michael Cherry.
Yeah, because he went to Carolina. That's why. Good job.
Ralph Sampson.
All right, we'll end it with Ralph Sampson. It's kind of hard to beat 3-time National Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Cool, Sonia. Last thing for me, high school sports coverage, and it's a little interesting, right? Because you may or may not be a couple years older than me, but when you and I were kids, and Flip, you're of this age too. There was tons of high school sports coverage in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, right? And obviously the newspaper has changed dramatically. Coverage for high school sports seems to be self-reported kind of stuff by the kids and the parents and maybe the coaches, and maybe Max Preps has the right information or maybe they don't. But it just seems like the world has kind of forgotten about high school athletics. Not entirely, but the landscape has changed. And this podcast is trying to change that in our own small little way. But what are your thoughts on the topic?
I definitely think it's changed. I just remember always being interviewed in high school. We were, whether it was me by myself, or I remember one interview was the three of us, 2 other kids, one guy and a girl. And we were always being interviewed. Always, we were really good, but we were always being interviewed. Now, Gymnastics, I was never ever interviewed for gymnastics. Ever. Nobody covered gymnastics when I was doing gymnastics. But track, there was so much coverage, like all the time. I mean, I knew like Fred Jeter covered it. I knew him personally because he was always covering me. And not just the Times Dispatch, but of course the Herald Progress. You know, I stayed in the Herald Progress. But yeah, I don't know. And it's hard because I try to follow track, but because there's not a lot of coverage, it's hard to see like who the top people are, what's going on until you get to district and regional, and then you have to kind of go to the meet to see it because there is no coverage. I would love to be able to follow an athlete or hear about athletes that are, even when Britton Wilson was running, I mean, she was like, state champion. You didn't hear about her until the state meet, the regional or state meet. You never heard about her. So
and you were looking, right? You wanted.
Yes, I'm always looking. And you just, you hear a little bit about basketball players, but the non-revenue sports get nothing. They get nothing. They get nothing. And like I said, I can remember being interviewed all the time.
So isn't that ironic that there's not nearly as much coverage, or certainly appears to not be as much coverage? And I think you were being interviewed a lot because you were setting records and you were very hard to beat. I think you're probably an exception to this conversation. But thinking through the landscape back when you were in high school and college versus what it's like now, do you think women are getting better coverage now or back in the day?
I mean, I didn't think they were getting great coverage back in the day, but I don't think they're getting great coverage now either. You hear about basketball. That's really all you hear about with women. And I think, they get pretty good coverage in basketball, but you don't, like I said, Britton Wilson was a top athlete. She was recruited. I think she went to Tennessee first, but she was never heard anything about her. Never, no big articles, nothing.
That's why
I was, I'm, we got a Hall of Fame class coming up, and I was researching because I have to find some information on Donnell Derricott. Tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of articles on him and Aaron, just tons. And I don't know if you see that anymore, like that on like one or two people singled out. I don't think it's there.
No, it's not.
It's unfortunate.
Well, so you do know a lot of people in
Seems like the athletes are doing it themselves more.
Yep. I mean,
it's even
like my husband,
promote themselves now.
My husband's a coach, and he's constantly trying to find ways to promote his athletes, to get their name out there, to get college coaches, interested in them, and it's just all you're sending out stuff. And he used to send stuff out when we were younger too, but you didn't have all the technology that we have now. And I just feel like it would just be it's so much easier now if we really wanted to promote athletes. All the news channels have Facebook pages, and they could do spotlights on athletes. Even if they didn't want to put it in the paper or on TV, you can do spotlights on your Facebook page of athletes if you really wanted to cover them. But you don't even see that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sonia, there's a certain podcast that your husband could use if he really wants to promote some folks. I can hook you up with the people on it.
I will definitely let him know.
We're going to get Earl on, but we're trying to be football free until like July, August timeframe. Seriously, because if we let football creep into the non-football months, then we do what every sports network and sports publication does, and that's just go football crazy. In fact, to kind of round out this conversation, I went on Richmond Times-Dispatch website to see maybe it's more vibrant on the website, because certainly the paper, the physical paper, is not really a thing anymore unless you're over the age of 70. And I went to the high school section, and the first image I see is Rasheed Wright. He happens to be the basketball coach for the state champions, but that was 2 months ago. That's a 2-month-old image. And then the next 5 images were football in May. Wow. It doesn't make any sense. They
don't cover the spring sports, the non-revenue. They just don't cover them.
Well, we've been talking to high school athletes just started to the last couple of months, and we're ended up with more young ladies than young men.
So, really?
Yeah.
So, you know
how it's happened.
Earl, in Earl's classroom, he posts any high school athlete that is an article on him or whatever. He always posts it in his classroom, and he is always looking for articles to post because they're just not there anymore. And he can tell you, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he always had stuff to post. And now he's, just barely finding anything.
Sonia, I think I told you this on the phone a couple months ago, and you can share this with Earl or not. Earl's kind of the reason we started this Virginia-oriented sports podcast. Because he told me, he goes, coverage is horrible.
Right.
It's just all self-reported stuff by the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little frustrated with that.
All right, so Sonia, let's end on something uplifting. What are you most looking forward to over the next year as it relates to sports? And if you could give us a Virginia.
This is an Olympic year, so I'm super excited about Olympics. I watched the Core Classic gymnastics Saturday, and Simone came out there tearing up the mats, and it was so exciting. I love the Olympics. I'm like, I don't know if everybody loves the Olympics. I love the Olympics. I love Summer Olympics, and I especially love gymnastics. I love track, and I'm just so excited about gymnastics. I think I love watching gymnastics even more than I like watching track. And my daughter and I get on the phone and we're like, Saturday, we're like, oh my God, did you see Simone? Oh my God, did you see Jordan Childs? And we're just going back and forth. So the U.S. championship is this coming weekend. And so I'm super excited and pumped to watch that. And my daughter and I were talking because I'm on a blog for gymnastics. And they were saying, Simone did some super duper quadruple flip something worth 1,000 points in difficulty, and she kind of took 3 steps, but she won because the difficulty was so much higher. And somebody was like, no, I don't think it's fair. She won because she took 3 steps and this person landed in them. And so we got into a debate over difficulty versus taking the easy route and doing something safe. And we want excitement. The viewers want excitement. I want to see the quadruple twisting, double back flip, jumping over the roof kind of stuff. I thought college gymnastics was a little boring because they all do easy, safe stuff and they all look the same to me. So I'm really excited about gymnastics in the Summer Olympics and track and field. We're going to see what Sha'Carri can do. Sha'Carri hasn't had a great lead into the trials, so we'll see. Hopefully she's saving it.
Yeah, I'd love to see her
So
win.
Would Gabby Douglas be on your honorable mention?
Yeah.
Virginia?
I think what Gabby did was great. She's trying to come back and it's not going so well. But kudos to her for trying, 20. It's so weird because her and Simone are like around the same age, but Gabby took like 8 years off. And you can tell it shows. It shows. I'm tell you, the gymnastics U.S. championships are it's so competitive. And they only pick 5 people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
5 people.
Mm.
Gabby's from
PG. Right? Yeah, she's from the beach area.
Yeah, she is. She trained in Kansas or somewhere in Middle America somewhere, but she's from Virginia.
Sonia, do you still do gymnastics kind of things?
Nope, not at all. No? I can do a handstand. Yeah, I can do a cartwheel.
Hey, I love it. Sonia, I'm not going to let PG get out of here without, I don't know if he's told you his LaShawn Merritt story yet, since we're talking about the Olympics.
I'll tell it off recording.
Okay.
Cool. Well, Sonia, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. And we'd love for you and Earl to help us get young athletes involved in this podcast.
Wonderful. Yeah. It was nice meeting you too.
Thank you, Sonia.
Lovely meeting you. Thank you so much.
All right. You guys have a great night.
You too.
You too. Take care.